They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But what if I told you that mine was served in a boardroom, with legal documents, champagne, and the look of absolute horror on their faces? My name is Lisa Chen, and this is the story of how I went from corporate fixer to corporate owner in less than 4 hours. It was a Tuesday morning, 9:03 a.m., to be exact. I remember because I was in the middle of closing a deal that would save the company $12 million. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something told me to pick up. Lisa Chen? The voice was cold. Mechanical. Speaking. This is Marcus Wellington from Human Resources. Your employment with Apex Solutions has been terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Your personal belongings will be mailed to you. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. I had just pulled this company back from the edge of bankruptcy 6 months ago. I had cleaned up messes that would have landed half the executive team in federal prison. I was the one they called at 3 in the morning when things went sideways. Is this some kind of joke? I asked. Still smiling. Still thinking this had to be a mistake. Your access has been revoked. Security is on their way to your office now. The line went dead. And that's when I heard the footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, purposeful. 2 security guards appeared at my door, faces blank, hands hovering near their belts like I was some kind of threat. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. No explanation. No reason. Just out. Like 7 years of loyalty, of 80-hour weeks, of saving their skin over and over again, meant absolutely nothing. As they walked me through the office, I could feel every eye on me. My colleagues, people I'd mentored, people whose careers I'd built, suddenly found their computer screens fascinating. Nobody made eye contact. Nobody said a word. But I did notice one thing. Standing in the corner office, watching through the glass with a smug little smile, was Derek Ashford, the CEO's son-in-law, the man who'd married into the company 18 months ago and had been trying to push me out ever since. And in that moment, as they escorted me past him, I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I just smiled back, because Derek Ashford had made the biggest mistake of his privileged, entitled life. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Let me tell you about Derek. Silver spoon, Ivy League degree, that daddy's money bought, and absolutely zero real-world experience. He married Catherine Ashford, the CEO's daughter, at some country club wedding that probably cost more than most people's houses. And just like that, he was senior vice president of operations, not because he earned it, because he said, I do. For 18 months, I watched him bumble through meetings, make decisions that cost us clients, and take credit for work that my team did. But the worst part? He was threatened by me, by my competence, by the fact that people actually respected me because I'd earned it. He started small, excluding me from meetings, questioning my decisions in front of others, spreading little rumors about my attitude problem. Classic corporate sabotage. I could have fought back then, but I'm not someone who makes noise. I'm someone who makes moves. So I watched. I documented. I waited. 3 months ago, Derek made his first major mistake. He approved a vendor contract without proper due diligence because the vendor was his college buddy. Red flags everywhere. Overpriced services, suspicious subsidiary companies, financial structures that didn't add up. I flagged it in writing, sent it to him, copied the compliance team. He shut it down immediately, told everyone I was being overly cautious and slowing down progress. That vendor? They were running a fraud scheme, billing us for services never rendered, creating fake invoices, laundering money through shell companies. When it all came crashing down 2 weeks ago, guess who got blamed? Not Derek. Me. He claimed I had approved the contract, forged my signature on documents, created a paper trail that made it look like I was either incompetent or complicit. The CEO, his father-in-law, wanted to handle it quietly, make me the scapegoat, push me out, and move on. Derek convinced them to terminate me retroactively, meaning I'd lose my benefits, my severance, everything. They even tried to claw back my last 3 months of salary. They thought I'd slink away quietly, too afraid to fight back, too broken to cause trouble. They thought wrong. Because while Derek was busy playing corporate politics, I was busy being the fixer I'd always been. And fixers don't just solve problems. We prevent them. We prepare for them. We see them coming from miles away. And I had seen Derek coming from the day he walked through those doors. You know what they never tell you in business school? The most valuable asset in any company isn't the product, the brand, or even the money. It's information. And I had 7 years of it. Every shady deal, every corner cut, every regulatory violation swept under the rug, every tax optimization strategy that danced dangerously close to fraud, every NDA paid to keep someone quiet. I wasn't just a fixer, I was a witness. And I had documented everything, not because I was planning revenge, because I was protecting myself. In corporate America, loyalty is a one-way street. I learned that lesson early, so I made sure that if they ever turned on me, I'd have leverage, file folders, encrypted drives, email backups, voice recordings, every single piece of evidence carefully organized, legally obtained, and stored in multiple secure locations. And the best part? They had no idea. The moment that security guard escorted me out at 9:15 a.m., I was already 10 steps ahead. I walked to my car, sat in the parking lot, and made my first call. James, it's Lisa. They pulled the trigger. James Kowalski was my lawyer. Not just any lawyer. The lawyer who'd helped me set up my contingency plan 2 years ago when I first sensed Derek was going to be a problem. You're sure you want to do this? He asked. Once we start, there's no going back. I looked up at the Apex Solutions building. Gleaming glass and steel, built on the backs of people like me who actually did the work while people like Derek took the credit. I'm sure. Activate everything. Give me 2 hours, James said. And Lisa? By the time I'm done, they're going to wish they'd given you that severance package. 2 hours. That's all I needed to turn this around. I hung up and made my second call. This one, to Sarah Morrison, investigative journalist at the Business Tribune. We'd worked together before when I'd quietly fed her information about corporate misconduct in the industry. She owed me. Big time. Sarah, remember that story you've been dying to break about corporate fraud and nepotism? I just became your star witness. Tell me everything, she breathed. My third call was to the Securities and Exchange Commission. See, when you work in corporate compliance for 7 years, you develop relationships with regulators. And when you have documented evidence of securities fraud, insider trading, and financial misconduct, those regulators listen very carefully. This is Special Agent Reeves. Who am I speaking with? Someone who just became very cooperative, I said. And I have names, dates, documents, and recordings. How fast can you move? For what you're describing? We can have a team assembled by noon. Perfect. My final call was to Marcus Wellington, the HR drone who delivered my termination notice. But this time, I wasn't calling him. I was calling someone much more important, someone who'd been waiting for me to make this exact move. Lisa, the voice answered. Warm, familiar. I was wondering when you'd reach out. Richard Chen, my uncle, and the majority shareholder of Apex Solutions that nobody knew about. Here's what Derek never bothered to research. Apex Solutions wasn't just founded by Catherine's father. It was co-founded by two partners 30 years ago, Thomas Ashford and Richard Chen, my uncle. When the company went public 15 years ago, Richard sold most of his shares but kept just enough to maintain significant influence. 23%. Silent partner. Board observer. The ghost in the machine. Thomas and Richard had an agreement. Richard would stay silent, stay in the background, let Thomas run the show. In exchange, Richard had veto power on any major decision that threatened the company's integrity. Firing me? That qualified. I'm sorry, Uncle Richard, I said. I tried to protect the company. I really did. But they've crossed a line. I know, Lisa. I've been watching. That boy has been destroying everything we built. It's time to remind them who really holds the power here. What do you need from me? Just keep doing what you do best. Fix things. I'll handle the board. Within 30 minutes of my termination, Richard Chen called an emergency board meeting. As a major shareholder, he had that right. And under the company bylaws, Any board meeting required a quorum of at least 6 of the 9 board members. Richard controlled 3 proxy votes. He was bringing a legal team, and he was armed with every piece of evidence I'd given him over the past 2 years of Derek's incompetence and misconduct. Meanwhile, James was filing 3 separate lawsuits: wrongful termination, defamation, and fraud, each one meticulously documented, each one designed to put Apex Solutions in the national spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Sarah was drafting her article, Corporate Dynasty Crumbles. CEO's son-in-law faces fraud investigation. She'd have it ready by 5 p.m. Front page of the business section. And the SEC? They were moving faster than I'd ever seen them move. Subpoenas were being prepared. Agents were being dispatched. By 2 p.m., Apex Solutions would have federal investigators in the building, but I wasn't done. Not even close. Because at 11:47 a.m., I walked into a coffee shop across the street from Apex Solutions and opened my laptop. I had one more card to play. The ace I'd been saving for exactly this moment. I logged into a private equity fund that nobody knew I'd been building for 3 years. Every bonus, every stock option, every dollar I'd saved had gone into this fund. Conservative investments, strategic partnerships, patient, methodical wealth building. And that fund was now worth $42 million. Enough to make a very interesting acquisition. At 12:15 p.m., the emergency board meeting began. Thomas Ashford sat at the head of the table, Derek beside him, both of them thinking this was just Richard being dramatic. They had no idea what was coming. Richard stood, buttoned his jacket, and addressed the board with the calm confidence of a man who'd built empires. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to discuss the illegal termination of Lisa Chen, gross misconduct by senior leadership, and the immediate threat to this company's future. Derek scoffed. Actually scoffed. This is ridiculous. Lisa Chen was terminated for cause. She approved fraudulent contracts, and we have documentation, forged documentation, Richard interrupted, which we will prove in court. But that's not why we're here. We're here because in the past 6 hours, this company has been served with 3 federal subpoenas, 18 lawsuits, and a notice of investigation from the Securities and Exchange Commission. The room went silent. Thomas turned pale. What are you talking about? Richard slid folders across the table. Derek Ashford has been engaging in securities fraud, vendor kickback schemes, and financial misconduct for 18 months. Lisa Chen documented everything and reported it internally multiple times. Derek retaliated by terminating her and attempting to frame her for his crimes. Derek stood up, face red. This is insane. I don't have to listen to this. Sit down, Richard said, his voice like steel. Because I'm not finished. As of 1 p.m. today, I am exercising my right to call a vote of no confidence in current leadership. Additionally, I am announcing a tender offer to purchase controlling interest in Apex Solutions. Chaos erupted. Board members shouting questions. Thomas demanding explanations. Derek looking like he might actually pass out. But Richard wasn't done. And I'm pleased to announce that my niece, Lisa Chen, will be joining me as co-investor and will assume the role of Chief Restructuring Officer, reporting directly to the board. Her first act will be conducting a full audit of all contracts, vendors, and financial dealings under Derek Ashford's authority. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. You're up. At exactly 1 p.m., I walked through the front doors of Apex Solutions. The same doors I'd been escorted out of 4 hours earlier. This time, I wasn't leaving. Security recognized me, looked confused, reached for their radios. It's okay, I said, showing them the letter Richard had sent. I work here. Actually, I'm about to own here. I took the elevator to the executive floor, walked past my old office, past Derek's office, straight to the boardroom. The door was closed, but I could hear the shouting inside. I knocked once, didn't wait for an answer, walked right in. Every face turned to me. Shock, confusion, and on Derek's face, pure, absolute terror. Gentlemen, I said, setting my briefcase on the table. Shall we discuss the terms of my return? The next 3 hours were beautiful. Watching everything crumble for the people who thought they were untouchable. Derek tried to bluff. tried to claim I was bitter, vindictive, making things up. But when James started presenting evidence, recordings, emails with Derek explicitly ordering fraudulent practices, the bluff fell apart. Thomas tried to protect his son-in-law, offered settlements, offered severance packages for both Derek and me if we'd just move on. But it was too late. The SEC doesn't care about internal settlements when federal crimes are involved. By 2:30 p.m., Derek was asked to leave the building pending investigation. The same security guards who'd escorted me out that morning now escorted him. The irony was delicious. Catherine, his wife, showed up at 3 p.m. She didn't even look at Derek. She came straight to me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Lisa. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what he was doing. And here's the thing." I believed her. Catherine was a good person who'd made the mistake of loving the wrong man. She'd been kept in the dark, used as a shield while Derek destroyed her family's legacy. "I know," I told her. "And I'm not here to hurt you or your family. I'm here to save the company your grandfather built. But that means holding people accountable. All people." She nodded, understanding what I meant. Derek was done. And Thomas, who'd enabled him, who'd looked the other way, who'd thrown me under the bus to protect his family's reputation, he was done too. By 4 p.m., the board voted. Unanimous decision to accept Richard's tender offer, pending regulatory approval. Thomas Ashford resigned as CEO, effective immediately. Derek Ashford was terminated for cause, with a notation in his employment file that would make sure he'd never work in corporate America again. Richard was named interim CEO, and I was offered a position that didn't exist 4 hours ago. Chief Operating Officer, second in command, the person who would actually run the company, while Richard handled the board and investors. 23% ownership for Richard, 12% for me, purchased through my private equity fund. Together, we controlled 35% of the company, the largest voting bloc, enough to make any decision we wanted. But I didn't just want control. I wanted justice. At 4:47 p.m., Sarah's article went live. Front page. Corporate dynasty scandal. CEO's son-in-law faces federal investigation. Within an hour, it was picked up by major news networks. By evening, it was trending on social media. Apex Solutions stock dropped 8% in after-hours trading. But that was temporary, because the next morning, when Richard announced the restructuring plan, when I addressed the company and promised transparency, accountability, and a return to the values that made Apex great, the stock recovered, then climbed, then soared. Because the market doesn't just want profit. It wants competence, integrity, leadership, things Derek never had, things Thomas had forgotten, but things I'd spent 7 years proving I could deliver. 3 weeks later, Derek Ashford was indicted on 14 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and securities violations. He's currently out on bail, waiting for trial. His lawyers are already floating plea deals. Thomas Ashford retired to Florida. No charges filed against him, but his reputation destroyed. The man who built Apex Solutions will be remembered as the man who almost destroyed it by protecting his worthless son-in-law. Catherine filed for divorce. She also joined our board of directors. Turns out, she's actually brilliant at strategic planning. She just needed to get out from under Derek's shadow. And me? I'm sitting in the corner office now. The one Derek used to occupy. I didn't ask for it, Richard insisted. "You earned this 10 times over," he told me. "Not because of what you did this week, because of what you've been doing for 7 years. We cleaned house. Every executive who'd stood by and watched me get railroaded? Gone. Every department head who'd participated in the cover-up? Gone. We promoted from within, found hungry, talented people who'd been overlooked because they weren't connected, weren't related, weren't part of the club. The vendor fraud scheme? We cooperated fully with federal investigators, recovered most of the money, and implemented new compliance systems that became industry standard. Other companies started copying our model. Within 6 months, Apex Solutions wasn't just recovered. We were thriving. Revenue up 42%. Employee satisfaction at an all-time high. Client retention at 97%. And Forbes ran a cover story. The fixer who became the boss. How Lisa Chen saved a company by destroying its leadership. But you know what the best part was? About a month after everything went down, I got an email from Marcus Wellington, the HR guy who delivered my termination notice. Subject line: I'm sorry. He explained that Derek had ordered him to terminate me, had threatened his job if he didn't comply immediately, had told him I was under investigation and needed to be removed before I destroyed evidence. Marcus had believed him, followed orders, and spent the last month feeling sick about it. I should have questioned it, he wrote. I should have done my due diligence. I should have protected you. Instead, I protected my paycheck. I understand if you want me gone. I'll resign if you ask. I stared at that email for a long time. Thought about revenge. About making an example. About showing everyone what happens when you cross Lisa Chen. Then I thought about the kind of leader I wanted to be. The kind of company I wanted to build. I called Marcus into my office. He looked terrified. Thought he was getting fired. Maybe worse. Marcus, I said. You made a mistake. You followed orders without asking questions. That's human. What matters now is what you do next. Anything, he said. I'll do anything to make this right. Good. Because I'm promoting you to Director of HR Compliance. Your job is to make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else here. Build systems, train managers, create a culture where people ask questions, where they push back on unethical orders, where they protect employees instead of protecting executives. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're promoting me? You made one mistake, Marcus, but you owned it. You apologized. You want to do better. That's more than most people would do. Now prove me right. He did. Marcus became one of my best hires. Built an HR department that actually serves employees instead of management. Implemented whistleblower protections. Created anonymous reporting systems. Turned HR from the company's shield into the company's conscience. That's the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge destroys. Justice rebuilds. People ask me all the time now, how did you do it? How did you go from terminated to owner in 4 hours? And the answer is simple. Preparation. I didn't win because I got lucky. I won because for 7 years, I'd been building leverage, documenting evidence, creating relationships, saving money, and preparing for the day someone would try to destroy me. Most people don't do that. They assume loyalty will be rewarded. They trust that doing good work is enough. They believe the system will protect them. I learned early that the system protects power, not people. So I made myself powerful, not through politics or manipulation, but through competence, evidence, and strategic relationships. Every email I saved, every conversation I documented, every dollar I invested, every relationship I built, every regulation I learned, every legal structure I studied, it all mattered. It all came together when I needed it most. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about value. Derek thought he had value because of his name, his connections, his marriage. But when everything fell apart, what did he have? Nothing. No skills, no relationships built on respect, no achievements that were actually his. I had value because of what I built. Knowledge, competence, integrity, relationships, based on mutual respect and trust. Evidence that I was good at what I did. That's the difference between entitled and earned. Derek felt entitled to destroy me because he thought his position made him untouchable. I earned the power to fight back because I'd spent years proving I was indispensable. So if you take one thing from my story, let it be this. Build your leverage before you need it. Document everything. Never stop learning. Never stop growing. Never assume that doing good work is enough to protect you. And when someone tries to tear you down, don't just survive. Don't just fight back. Win. Win so completely that they can never threaten you again. Win so decisively that you change the entire game. Because revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something so strong, so valuable, so undeniable, that they destroy themselves trying to compete with you. It's been 2 years since that Tuesday morning. Since the phone call that changed everything. Apex Solutions is now worth 3 times what it was when I was terminated. We've expanded into new markets, acquired two competitors, and become the industry standard for ethical business practices. Richard retired last year, handed me the CEO position. At 34 years old, I'm running a Fortune 500 company. Not because someone gave it to me, because I earned it. Derek served 18 months in federal prison. Got out last month. I hear he's working at a car dealership now. His father-in-law's money dried up. His wife moved on. His reputation destroyed. I don't feel sorry for him. But I don't celebrate his downfall either. He's a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you build your life on other people's work and other people's names. Thomas reached out a few months ago. Wanted to meet for coffee. Talk about closure. I declined. Not out of anger, but because there's nothing left to say. He made his choices. I made mine. We both have to live with the consequences. As for me, I still get to the office at 7 a.m., still work the long hours, still solve the impossible problems. But now, I do it from a position of power. I protect people instead of being protected. I build up instead of being torn down. And every morning, when I walk through those doors, past the security guards who once escorted me out, past the offices where people once ignored my termination, I remember. I remember the feeling of betrayal, the humiliation, the anger, and then I remember what I built from those ashes. Because they didn't just terminate me that Tuesday morning. They freed me. They forced me to stop protecting them and start protecting myself. They gave me the push I needed to take what I'd always deserved. They thought they were ending my story. Instead, they began it. And that's the real lesson here. Sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing, because it forces you to stop playing small, stop being grateful for scraps, stop accepting less than your worth. They terminated me at 9 a.m. By 1 p.m., I owned them. And by the time the sun set that day, everyone knew the truth. Lisa Chen wasn't just a fixer, she was the foundation. And you can't destroy the foundation without bringing down the whole building.